Hello, everyone. I am the Caretaker, and welcome to BC's Video Vault. This was a segment that originally appeared on the Graveyard Show podcast in 2010, and it was a movie review segment where Brian Collins from Horror Movie A Day would come on once a month to talk about films that he liked, he could recommend, and did not like. Now, there were 6 of these segments in all before the Graveyard Show podcast ended in mid-2010. And this is the premiere edition, which appeared on Graveyard Show podcast number 53, which was January 21st, 2010. Brian reviews the films Carriers, Alien Prey, and Door to Silence, the last film directed by horror master Lucio Fulci. All right, enough from me. Let's hear from Brian as we enter BC's Video Vault.
Hey folks, this is BC from HorrorMovieAday.com, and welcome to the new edition of what I hope will be an ongoing segment of BC's Video Vault here on the Graveyard Show. For those of you who are unfamiliar with my site, I really do watch a horror movie every day. And since it has to be a movie that I haven't seen before, I sometimes have to dig pretty deep, to find stuff on a daily basis. So this segment is designed to give a shout out to a couple of movies, new and old, that you might have missed, as well as point out a couple that, at least one, I should say, that you should definitely stay away from for one reason or another. The first one I want to talk about today, just hit DVD a couple weeks ago. It's called Carriers, and it stars Chris Pine, who played Kirk in the new Star Trek, as well as Piper Perabo from the live-action Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, which is, of course, the most terrifying movie ever made. Some people have dismissed it. They said it was like a teen-friendly version rip-off of The Road, but I think it's a better movie than The Road, and I sincerely doubt it was a rip-off, since Carriers started filming in August of 2006, and Cormac McCarthy's source novel for The Road didn't hit stores until later that year. So, kind of hard to rip off something that isn't out yet. It does, however, feel a bit like an adaptation of the Stephen King short story Night Sir from I believe that was in Night Shift. It has, a few young folks, they're the last survivors of this disease. There's wiped out humanity, and there's a beach and stuff. There's even a brief mention of the disease starting in China in that story, and then it's hinted that it's the same case here in Carriers. But regardless, it's a really interesting take, I thought, on the post-apocalyptic genre. And Chris Maloney shows up, and it's not a big role, but it's a really kind of moving one. He's like a dad whose daughter is infected, and he's trying to help her. And Pine, obviously, you saw him in Star Trek, guys with charisma, you know what I mean? And you see a lot of that here. I mean, this might have been one of the movies, even though it wasn't out, it existed. Might have been one of the movies that got him the Kirk job in the first place. Not sure why Paramount didn't give it a wide release, but you should definitely check it out now that it's on disc. That was a really cool, solid little movie. So next up is Alien Prey, also known as just Prey, from 1978. Now, a heads up, this is a really, really weird movie. The horror elements are pretty light, despite, that catchy title. But it's definitely unique, which is why it struck a chord with me. It starts off like the usual sort of, alien impersonates a human movie, but instead of knocking people off in rapid fashion, he sort of just hangs out with this lesbian couple who live in an isolated farm in the woods, and he sort of turns them against each other. But he's also got a severe hatred for birds for some reason, and at one point he kills all their chickens, and this prompts one of the women to freak out and kick all the chicken carcasses. This movie's just got a lot of odd moments like that, and it takes some unexpected turns in the final 20 minutes. Like Alien Raiders, the only really schlocky thing about it is the title. And I think as long as you're not opposed to random softcore lesbian scenes tossed in the middle of your horror movie, I think you'll dig it. It's on DVD, you can get through Netflix, Blockbuster, all that good stuff. And then finally, I'm sad to report that the movie you should definitely stay away from is Door into Silence from 1991, which was the final film directed by Lucio Fulci. You always hope that any talent would go out on a high note, but this is as far from the truth as you can possibly get. This movie is a dull mess, very uncharacteristic of Fulci. Basically, it's the umpteenth Carnival of Souls ripoff, but instead of that film's creepiness and, at the time, originality, you just get John Savage driving around Louisiana for like 90 minutes, doing and saying nothing. And since it's so obvious in the first 10 minutes that he's already dead, it just makes the film even harder to endure, because you in the audience, you're always like 100 steps ahead of him, And, not that Fulci has never made a bad movie before, but they were at least always entertaining and, featured some, gonzo kill scenes, right? This one has nothing. It's just Savage driving around and nothing happens, and then till the end when you find out he's dead, which you knew from the first scene. But really, the main reason you should avoid it is because you as a horror fan, you probably have a really high opinion of Fulci's output as a whole. You got Zombie, you got Gate Out of Hell, you got, House by the Cemetery. Hell, you even got New York Ripper with the Donald Duck Killer, right? Those movies, whether you like them or not, you have to admit they're fun. And this one just isn't fun. So if you watch it, you're going to think less of Fulci as a whole. He also wrote this one. So don't watch it and keep your high opinion of the guy. You know what I mean? Well, I hope you guys enjoy these little mini reviews, and you can head over to horrormovieaday.com to check out the full reviews for those. Just be warned, there are spoilers. And keep checking in. As I said before, we watch there's no we, it's just me. I watch and review a movie every day, and we're now in our 4th year, which I think is pretty awesome. And so yeah, check it out, and back to you, Caretaker.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. It's great to go back and revisit these segments of BC's Video Vault. You can also find Brian's book online regarding Horror Movie a Day. And you can also catch him on the Shudder series Behind the Monsters. He's one of the people interviewed in that series. That's what actually got me thinking about these old segments that appeared on the Graveyard Show podcast back in 2010. Speaking of which, you can hear the Graveyard Show podcast right here on YouTube. And it is also available everywhere podcasts exist. And if you would like to delve into even more horror, you can find my show Catacombs of Horror exclusively here on YouTube as well. I discuss different topics that come to mind in the world of horror, and I look forward to seeing you there as well. That's going to do it for us here inside BC's Video Vault. Thank you for joining us here, and make sure you're out there watching those movies and letting us know what you think in the comments section below. Take care, and I will see you again back here inside BC's Video Vault.